When I first opened the invitation, I thought it was a mistake. A cruel joke, maybe. But no, it was real. My ex was getting married, and I was lucky enough to be on the guest list. Not because she wanted closure. Not because we ended on good terms. No. I was invited to be the punchline. But what she didn't know. I don't play along, I play smarter. If she wanted a show, I was ready to steal the spotlight. I met Emily during my second semester of college. She sat 3 rows ahead of me in our comparative literature class, sharp, funny, a little bit chaotic in a way that made you want to be around her just to see what she'd do next. One afternoon, I lent her a pen. 2 weeks later, we were studying together at the library. By the end of the semester, we were a thing. We were together for over 3 years. Not the casual kind of college fling, this was the real deal. I truly believed she was the one. We moved in together our senior year. Did grocery runs on Sunday mornings, made terrible pasta dinners together, watched crappy Netflix shows while lying on a mattress on the floor because we couldn't afford a bed frame yet. That kind of relationship. She was ambitious, double major, worked part-time, involved in student government. But also a little manipulative. She had this way of turning things around when we argued, like somehow, I was always the one overreacting, or misremembering, or just being too sensitive. I ignored it. I loved her. Or maybe I was scared to lose what we had. She said all the right things when we talked about the future. Marriage. Kids someday. A little place of our own, maybe a dog. Then, one day, it was over. We'd both graduated. I was a few months into my first job, she had just started working for a startup in the city. One night, I came home to find her packing up her things. No warning. No big fight leading up to it. She just said, I think we're growing apart. That was it. She didn't cry. Didn't really explain. Just left. I was devastated. It felt like the floor had opened up under me and I was falling, endlessly. I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. I stopped hanging out with friends. Even work felt meaningless. I'd sit at my desk staring at my screen, pretending to work while silently replaying every moment of our relationship, trying to figure out where it went wrong. The worst part? She moved on immediately. 1 week, after she left, she'd scrubbed me from her socials. A couple weeks later, she posted a picture with some guy at a concert. Then a vacation photo, her and the same guy, arms around each other, on a beach in Mexico. She looked happy. Glowing. Like I never even existed. I tried not to spiral, but I did. I went to therapy. Cried through the first 2 sessions. Talked about how I felt disposable. About how confused I was. How I never got closure. The therapist told me something that stuck: closure doesn't always come from the other person. Sometimes, you have to give it to yourself. So, I tried. I deleted our photos. Unfollowed her on social media, well, most of them. Okay, fine. I kept lurking her Instagram once in a while. Just to check. Just to see how she was doing. Just to see him. The new guy. Smiling. Tall. Seemed rich. They took trips, went wine tasting, rooftop dinners, fancy events. I tried to move on too. I changed jobs, joined a tech firm downtown. Made new friends there. Started working out. Got into hiking. I even went on a few dates, nothing serious, but enough to remind myself that life didn't end with Emily. Got into hiking. I even went on a few dates, nothing serious, but enough to remind myself that life didn't end with Emily. Still, there was this part of me, some small corner of my chest, that stayed hollow. I never really understood why she left. I never stopped wondering if she cheated. If the guy she posted with a week later had already been in the picture before we broke up. If everything she'd said, about loving me, about our future, was a lie. Then, about 8 months after the breakup, I stopped checking her Instagram. Not as some big symbolic moment. I just forgot one day. And then another. Until one morning I realized it had been weeks. That felt like progress. Fast forward to last month. It was a Thursday. I remember because we had a big meeting at work that morning, and I was already annoyed because someone double-booked a conference room. I got home late, tired, hungry, irritated. I kicked off my shoes, flopped on the couch, opened my laptop to check personal emails. That's when I saw it. Subject line: "You're invited, Emily and Joshua's wedding." At first, I thought it was spam. Like, some weird scam email from a fake wedding planning site. But then I opened it. It was real. There was a pastel pink background. A gold border. Their names in calligraphy. A link to their wedding website, RSVP button, and all. I stared at it for a full minute, completely frozen. My brain couldn't compute what I was seeing. Emily. My ex. The girl who ghosted our entire relationship, who dumped me without warning, who moved on before the sheets on our bed went cold, was inviting me to her wedding. At first, I thought, this must be a mistake. Maybe it was a mass email. Maybe she accidentally clicked my name while adding contacts. Maybe it was meant for someone else entirely. But then I clicked on the RSVP link. Curiosity got the better of me. There it was, a personalized message. "Hi, my name, I hope you've been doing well. Josh and I are getting married this summer and we'd love for you to come celebrate with us. It would mean a lot. Let me know if you can make it. Emily." My heart dropped into my stomach. It was real. She wanted me at her wedding. Why? Why would anyone invite their ex to their wedding, especially under these circumstances? I closed the laptop and just sat there. Stunned. Confused. Angry. Sad. All of it, all at once. That hollow space in my chest. It cracked open again, and then I did something I probably shouldn't have done. I clicked through to the couple's wedding website. They had a story section. How we met.it said they bumped into each other at a work function. Started dating a few months later. It was love at first sight. The timeline? Didn't add up. If they started dating a few months after meeting, then she was seeing him before we broke up. No doubt. I felt sick. All that time I spent blaming myself. Doubting myself. Wondering what I'd done wrong. Turns out, I was just being lied to. But still, why invite me? It didn't make sense. Until I saw her Instagram story 2 days later. A boomerang of her holding a wine glass, laughing with a bunch of girlfriends. The caption? "Invite sent, can't wait wedding season, petty vibes." That was the moment it hit me. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't nostalgia. It wasn't closure. It was a joke. A cruel, calculated, twisted joke. She invited me to her wedding, to rub it in my face. To laugh about it with her friends. To show her glow up. To prove she won. I wasn't just some ex. I was the punchline. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying the wedding invite in my head, the RSVP message, the petty vibes Instagram story. The way her friends must have laughed when she sent it out. The smirk I could practically hear in her voice. I spent years loving her. Supporting her. And this is where I ended up, reduced to a joke at her bridal brunch. At first, I told myself maybe it wasn't what it looked like. Maybe I was overreacting. Misreading something. So, I did what anyone would do. I showed the invite to a few close friends. Reactions were mixed. "Dude, no. That's weird. Don't go. That's shady as hell. She's just showing off. Ignore it." But one friend, Jason, my roommate from college, tilted his head and said, "Or, maybe she's trying to apologize, maybe she wants closure. I mean, why else would she personally invite you?" I didn't know what to think. I wasn't used to her reaching out. And even if she had terrible judgment, maybe, just maybe, there was a sliver of human decency left in her. So I slept on it. The next day, I composed a short, polite reply. Just one line. "Thanks for the invite, wishing you both all the best." I didn't want to engage. I didn't want to look petty. And I sure as hell wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of showing up just to be paraded around as her sad little ex. That was it. Case closed. Or so I thought. 3 days later, I got a DM from Lena, one of our old mutual friends from college. We weren't super close, but we had enough history that her message made me pause. "Hey. I wanted to give you a heads up about something." That's never a good opener. She followed up almost immediately. "I saw you got an invite to Emily's wedding. I wasn't sure if you were going. But I figured you should know." She didn't mean it seriously. My chest tightened. She told some people it was a joke. That she wanted to see if you'd actually show up. Said it would be kinda pathetic but hilarious. Her words, not mine. I didn't respond right away. I just stared at the message. Read it 5, 6, 10 times. It felt like a punch in the throat. Of course. Of course it wasn't about closure. Or maturity. Or kindness. It was Emily doing what Emily always did, controlling the narrative, twisting the knife. Except now she had an audience to clap and laugh while she did it. I felt rage. Humiliation. Nausea. It was high school mean girl behavior dressed up in wedding white. I almost cried, honestly. Not because I wanted her back, not anymore, but because the level of cruelty was so intentional. So calculated. She wanted me to feel small. She wanted to see if I'd show up in some wrinkled suit, sit in the back pew like a ghost from her past, and watch her pledge her life to someone else. She wanted to win. But something in me snapped. Not in a vengeful, violent way, but in a cold, quiet way. I wasn't going to let her have the last laugh. I wasn't going to disappear. If she wanted me at her wedding? Fine. I'd go. But not the way she expected. I called Jason that night and told him everything, Lena's message, the story post, the joke invite. He was furious. Dude, that's sociopathic. Who does that? Then he went quiet for a second and said, wait, what if you do show up? I laughed. You want me to just walk into that wedding like nothing happened? No, he said. Walk in looking like you're doing amazing. Let her see that she didn't ruin you. That she's irrelevant. The more I thought about it, the more the idea grew. But I didn't want to go alone. Not because I needed emotional backup, but because I wanted to flip the narrative. If she wanted drama, I'd give her the kind that hurts in silence. I called an old friend, Sophie. We'd gone to high school together, stayed in touch sporadically. She'd always been cool, smart, funny. Recently single. I reached out, casually at first. Asked if she wanted to grab dinner. We met up the following weekend, and she looked incredible. Long story short, I told her the situation, half expecting her to say no way. But instead, she grinned and said, I'll need a killer dress. Done. Over the next week, I got everything in order. Rented a tailored navy suit, something that actually fit like it was made for me. Scheduled a haircut. Got my shoes polished. Sophie sent me pictures of dresses she was considering. We picked one together, deep red, floor length, low back. Showstopper. Then, the night before the wedding, I posted a picture of the two of us at a rooftop bar. Just a soft flex. Classy. The caption? Excited to celebrate love tomorrow. I didn't tag Emily. I didn't name drop. But I knew she'd see it. I made sure mutual friends could. I even boosted it to my story so it wouldn't get lost in the feed. Petty? Maybe, but this wasn't about revenge. This was about reclaiming my dignity. This was about refusing to play the victim in a story she wrote. I wouldn't show up as the heartbroken ex. I'd show up as the man who healed. The morning of the wedding, I woke up feeling weirdly calm. There was no anxiety, no regret, just a strange sense of clarity. For the first time in over a year, I felt like I had agency. Like I wasn't stuck replaying the past or licking invisible wounds. I was in control now. Sophie arrived at my place early, her hair curled in soft waves, makeup light but flawless. She wore the dress we picked out, the deep red one that looked like it was designed just to shut people up when she walked into a room. She was elegance and power and beauty all wrapped in one, and the second she stepped out of the car at the venue beside me, I knew all eyes would be on her. And that was the point. We pulled up to the venue, some overly glamorous vineyard out in the hills. The kind of place where people pretend they're in a movie and throw around phrases like curated experience. We walked in together, hand in hand. Not overly romantic. Just connected. Heads turned. Some didn't recognize me right away. I'd lost some weight since the breakup, put effort into my appearance, my posture, my confidence. I'd grown. Others, though, they did a double take. I saw one of Emily's bridesmaids nudge another, her mouth halfway open like she'd seen a ghost. The lobby was full of chatter. Small talk. Champagne. I heard someone whisper, "Is that Emily's ex?" And then I saw her. Emily. She stood across the room in her gown, off-white silk, subtle lace. Her hair was pinned in soft curls. From the outside, she looked perfect. But the second her eyes landed on me, everything changed. She froze. Her smile twitched. Her hand clenched around her bouquet, and for a split second, her expression cracked, just slightly. Panic. She wasn't expecting me. Which made it even better. She glanced at her bridesmaids, whispered something, and they immediately began whispering among themselves, like high school girls trying to plot a cover-up before a teacher walked by. Her fiancé, Josh, noticed too. He furrowed his brow and leaned toward her. I couldn't hear their conversation, but I caught enough to read his lips. "Who's that guy?" Emily said something short. He didn't look satisfied. We moved through the crowd slowly, purposefully. I greeted a few familiar faces, kept my tone light and cheerful. Sophie was magnetic. She carried herself with effortless charm, engaging in small talk with people she'd never met, laughing politely, asking questions, sipping champagne. I wasn't loud. I wasn't dramatic. I just existed in a space like I belonged there. And that was the part Emily couldn't handle. About 30 minutes before the ceremony, I stepped out to the garden area near the back patio. Needed some air. That's when I heard hurried footsteps behind me. I turned. Emily. Alone. Her expression was no longer confused or stunned. It was furious. She walked right up to me, eyes blazing. "What the hell are you doing here?" she hissed, barely above a whisper but filled with venom. I blinked, genuinely surprised at her lack of subtlety. "You invited me. You weren't supposed to come," she snapped, glancing around to make sure no one was nearby. It was a joke." "Okay," I smiled politely. "Right. I figured that out. Then why would you actually show up? Are you trying to ruin my day?" I looked at her calmly. "Oh no. On the contrary. I came to celebrate." "That's what you said in your invite, right? Come celebrate with us." I thought I'd return the favor with grace. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. "Don't act like you're some martyr," she spat. "You knew it was for show." "I knew it was for laughs," I corrected her. "For your laughs. For your little clique. To see if the sad, pathetic ex would crawl in begging for closure. That was the joke, wasn't it?" She looked away, jaw tight. "Except I didn't crawl," I said quietly. I walked in. With someone beautiful, confident, happy. I walked in as someone who healed. Emily's eyes burned. "You're just doing this to get attention." "No," I said, voice calm. "You did that. I'm just finishing the joke." She took a step closer, eyes narrowed. "You're a child." I leaned in slightly, so only she could hear. "You wanted a punchline, Emily. Well, here I am." I paused. "And look around," I added. "Who's laughing now?" We stood in silence for a moment. Just the two of us in the garden, her bouquet trembling slightly in her hand. She wasn't crying. She wasn't screaming. But she was cracked. This wasn't how she pictured the day. I could tell. Finally, I stepped back while I said, adjusting my cufflinks, "I think I've said everything I came to say. Congratulations, by the way." Then I walked past her, back into the venue. I found Sophie by the bar. She raised an eyebrow. "Everything good?" "Perfect," I said. We stayed for another 10 minutes. Long enough to make our presence known, to leave a few parting impressions, to shake a few hands and take one final photo, me and Sophie against the vineyard background. Soft smiles. No bitterness. Just elegance. Then we left. Before the ceremony even started. On my terms. That walk back to the car felt like a victory parade. No, I didn't sabotage the wedding. I didn't scream or throw wine or make a scene. I did something worse, I thrived. I let her see what real closure looks like. And I walked away with my dignity intact. That was the real punchline. The morning after the wedding, I woke up feeling different. Not giddy. Not smug. Just settled. For the first time in what felt like forever, there was no ache in my chest. No echo of what-ifs or late-night regret. No imaginary conversations playing out in my head. Just silence. Peaceful, grounding silence. I checked my phone and saw a few messages waiting. The first was from Lena, the same friend who warned me about the joke. "You handled that like a boss." "Seriously?" Everyone's still talking about it. Then another from a guy I hadn't spoken to since sophomore year. Yo man, saw you at the wedding. You looked amazing. She looked tense as hell. Respect. Even Jason texted me, red suit next time. Go full legend mode. But still, 10 out of 10. Victory lap. I wasn't looking for praise. I hadn't gone for applause. But hearing that people noticed, that they got it, felt validating. The truth has a funny way of slipping through the cracks, though. A few days later, I heard from someone else, another mutual acquaintance who worked with Josh, Emily's now husband. Apparently, sometime during the honeymoon, he found out about the invite joke. The petty Instagram story. The way she mocked me before the wedding. And, unsurprisingly, he wasn't thrilled. From what I heard, it caused tension. Not an explosion. Not a cancelled trip. But friction. Enough that someone noticed and whispered about it later. Someone like Josh, logical, reserved, proud, didn't like being left out of an inside joke. Especially one involving his new wife's ex-boyfriend. Apparently, when he asked Emily about it, she brushed it off. Called it silly, said it wasn't that serious. But there was damage in the cracks. Subtle, quiet, creeping damage. And while I wasn't rooting for their marriage to fail, I didn't need them to crumble, knowing that he saw her pettiness for what it was that was enough. I didn't have to tear her down. She did it all on her own. Me, I moved on. The clarity I felt that day stayed with me, a door that had led in all kinds of emotional drafts, doubt, anger, longing, insecurity. But now locked. Bolted. Done. And I didn't just walk away feeling whole. I walked away with perspective. If you had told me a year ago that I'd be standing at my ex's wedding, suit pressed, posture straight, flanked by a gorgeous woman who made me laugh and feel seen, that I'd be walking out of that place smiling, while she was left scrambling for control, I'd have laughed in your face. Back then, I was broken. Lost. I was staring down the ruins of a relationship that meant everything to me, trying to find scraps of meaning in the wreckage. But the thing about heartbreak, it teaches you what pain can't hide forever. You start to see people for who they really are. Emily taught me a lot. She taught me what charm looks like when it's hiding manipulation. She taught me that love without respect is just performance. She taught me about ego, hers and mine. But most of all, she taught me what kind of person I never want to be. And that's a gift I'll carry forever. I'm dating again now. Nothing dramatic. No whirlwind story. Just something real. Someone kind. Someone who listens. Someone who doesn't play games with people's hearts just to feel powerful. Someone who sees me, not as a project or a placeholder, but as a partner. Emily tried to turn me into a joke. Instead, I became the lesson. And if she ever looks back, I hope she realizes you don't win when you break people down. You win when you build yourself up. Quietly. Gracefully. Completely. Because sometimes, the best revenge is just showing them you're doing better.